every conversation can be a crucible. My story begins on a Saturday in 2007. I was at a first birthday party with my beautiful little 1-year-old, and I was 9 weeks pregnant and feeling it with really severe morning sickness. You can imagine the scene. There were kids everywhere. It was crazy, wild, beautiful chaos, which is why it was so contrasting when all of a sudden the room went completely quiet for me. I felt a bubble descend over me, and it was as if everything had slowed down within me and around me. And then I heard a voice. It was gentle and it was very soothing. And it imparted to me that my little unborn babe would not make it into this world. The bubble lifted, but the calm remained. I had this sensation of having been cracked open to something deeply personal, yet also to something vastly beyond me. I called my doctor straight away. There was something wrong, I just knew it. But with no bleeding and very strong pregnancy symptoms, the doctors reassured me over and over that it was all okay, don't worry, it's okay. So then what was that powerful moment? What was that incredible presence and message? 1 month later, I went back for my follow-up appointment and the doctor could not find a heartbeat. He confirmed for me what I had known to be true, that this bub had passed and that I had experienced a missed miscarriage. So I was swiftly put into hospital for a D&C, and I woke up from that operation with the most incredible connection to that little soul. I also had an incredible connection to me, my body, my knowing and my intuition, and this greater field of life, however it is that you name that seemed to be holding me. At once, I was experiencing the most intense heartbreak of knowing I would never get to hold my little baby in my arms. Yet at the same time, I was experiencing waves of celebration and renewal through my body at this experience of having been returned to me. I needed somewhere to talk through all of these things which I had no words for yet. I remembered a book I had been given a few years earlier, Circle of Stones, A Woman's Journey to Herself by Judith Dewick. In this book, they celebrated the power of women coming together in circle to talk, to be, and to witness each other through every stage of their becoming, from the tiniest little girl through to the wisest, oldest crone. That was what I was wanting. I knew that I'd found what I needed, but as I searched, I couldn't quite find it. I was a lawyer back then, specialising in federal government law, and the women's circle space was as far from the courtroom as I could have imagined. So for me, at that time, there just wasn't a fit, and so I decided to try and create one myself. I sent an email out to friends and acquaintances sharing that I was yearning for a space for meaningful conversation, beyond the lovely lunches we would have together and the chats that would happen over school drop-offs, somewhere with deep presence and connection and a space to truly explore that unique experience that came from the feminine. 6 months after I heard that voice at that birthday party, the first circle gathered. And I realised in that moment that it was also a metaphoric birthing of that unborn little one into the world. Those first early years of circling taught me the transformational power of women coming together for meaningful conversations in a loving and safe collective field. Month after month, we would meet to witness each other in grief and despair, as well as celebration and inspiration. And what we realised is that we had created a crucible for our becoming through conversations of our lost dreams, of who we wanted to be and how we wanted to live this one beautiful life. But perhaps more importantly, we realised that we had created a crucible for our unbecoming. Deep conversations around the shedding of old beliefs and fears, weighty roles and responsibilities, societal norms and obligations. A crucible is a heat-resistant container which we use to melt substances such as gold under high temperatures. We can then reform those into their next level of being. For me, witnessing my own transformation during my time in Circle with my beautiful friends, as well as their incredible changes, it left me no other option. I knew I needed to leave the law. So I left my legal career, went back to university and retrained in psychotherapy and counselling, devoted to this art of healing conversation. 17 years and some 300 circles later, here's what I've learned. Women across the world are yearning for spaces to speak from the deepest parts of themselves and to be heard with that same depth. But what I also know to be true is that this yearning is universal. This yearning to be deeply seen, deeply heard, and deeply received in all that we are and all that we are becoming. And as such, the conversations and the ways of being in these women's circles can easily be translated into every meaningful conversation. Every conversation can be a crucible. So, let's talk about that desire for a deeper level of conversation and how that actually looked in the crucible of these women's circles. I realised over time that there seemed to be these 3 beautiful seasons of conversation that would take place in Circle. Reconnection. Reconnecting to this incredible collective feminine, supporting a reconnection back to ourselves and this magical reconnection to this greater field of life. The conversations would then evolve into a remembering of who we are in our quietest moments, the whispers of our dreams, perhaps never touched upon or lost completely. And then that third phase would be this shining, where in the naming and the claiming, we would begin to just glow, and that glow would ripple out into the world. Circle after circle, I would witness women step in, and they wouldn't really know why they were there or what they were even there for. But they knew that there was something calling them and that they needed to be around other women for this purpose. Whether it was for rest, a little piece of space just for them, or a deep yearning to reconnect in some other way, they would speak their stories. While every single story over those 300 circles was completely unique, there was one, without exception, characteristic that these stories all carried. They were all tinged or cloaked in shame and guilt. This nagging little voice that would say, my life's good, it's okay. How dare I feel unsure? How dare I feel confused? How dare I feel unhappy? And how dare I want more? But then the magic of the crucible would begin. As the women shared their stories around the circle, we would all hear our own story mirrored back to us. Stories of longing and desire, shame and confusion. And then we began to melt. The shame began to melt. And when that happened, it reformed in hope and possibility. And then came that remembering, the remembering of the deepest part of us, and then we could dare to reclaim it. Dare to reclaim the dreams, the desires, what we were told we could not be. And then that shining, the real magic. In the naming and claiming that the woman would put forward to the circle, we would sit with her and hold it as our own. We would not just witness it, we would champion it and amplify it. Her glow would be so bright, that glow from within. And then she would step out of the circle and the ripple effect began. And then we started seeing relationships transforming, career paths unfolding, passions reignited or perhaps discovered, or just a juicy, deeper sense of their own experience of self. It was pretty great. I discovered that these spaces were not just incredible places of replenishment for the women stepping into them, they were also incredible acts of resistance and revolution against the status quo. They challenged the internal narratives of who we were told we should be, what we should do, what we should have, as well as the systems that kept them in place. The next really important question that we should be asking, having heard about this delicious transformation, is how then do we create spaces of loving and safe collective fields which are ripe for these kind of crucibles, for these meaningful conversations? It's how we show up. It's how we step in. It's our way of being. And every circle, each woman commits and recommits to showing up in these particular ways, which bring a sacred attention and intention to this special space. There are many of these beautiful agreements, and I'd like to share with you just 4 that I think are probably the most important tonight. And I'm going to begin with authenticity and presence. We step in wholehearted. This form of presence means listening from a deeper space. Listening not to respond, but to hold and witness. It also means speaking from that deeper space. Not just to fill up silence or just because. Speaking when we feel moved to reflect to a woman or to share our own story, leaving space for the silence. It also means leaving the small talk at the door. Whether it's what's on this weekend or little Johnny's cricket match, it stays out here because in this space, we commit fully to being present to everything that is happening here inside us, inside the women around us, and in the space we share. Authenticity and presence. The next agreement is that we come as we are, sad, happy, exhausted, energised, in grief or in celebration. In our world, we have this very sanitised version of becoming, epitomised by the caterpillar bursting forth as the beautiful butterfly. We have this story that it gets a little tight in that cocoon and then out they burst. But what really happens is that we go into that cocoon, or the caterpillar goes into that cocoon, and it completely decomposes. It turns into some gnarly, greeny yellow goop, and it stays that way until the imaginal cells are ready to take it to its reformation or into its next iteration of that beautiful butterfly. In Circle, we make a commitment to turn up and to hold each other as the caterpillar, the goop, or the butterfly. Third, and this can be challenging for women, no caretaking, no problem solving, no advice giving. So if the woman sitting next to you is sobbing, we do not rush up with a box of tissues and a big hug. We trust that this loving, safe collective field we have created has got her, and that she's got her. And in fact, our only job is to witness her fully in this beautifully honest experience of her life, to allow her that piece of unbecoming, knowing we're all here for her. And last, but definitely not least, we commit to turning up and stepping into Circle with compassion and curiosity. Again, in our society, we are almost as a birthright fed competition, comparison and judgment. From the report cards at age 4 in kindergarten to the top 40 under 40 lists, it's almost in our DNA. We acknowledge that this is how we show up generally in the world, and we choose to do it differently in Circle. So whether it's judging yourself because you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just not nearly as far along in my meditation journey as the woman sitting next to me, or whether we're challenged by the life choice of the woman sitting across from us in Circle, we pause and we catch that and we hold it for ourselves and we get compassionate and curious. So, you've heard about some of these embodied ways of being. I'd like to invite you into a little experience of this. So, if you feel inclined, take a gentle breath in and out and feel yourself sitting in the chair. Presence. I'm going to invite you to move away slightly from my voice and towards you. I'm going to invite you to imagine you're sitting in a circle. You may wish to drop your gaze, close your eyes, or stay just as you are. Sitting in this circle, in this loving and safe collective field, I invite you to perhaps place a hand on your heart, your tummy, and as you've heard my words tonight of yearning and transformation, unbecoming and becoming, goop, just notice What has gently started bubbling up for you? Without judgment, just noticing, bringing compassion and curiosity to what that is. Is there a conversation yearning to be born? And if so, pose this question to yourself. Are you yearning for a crucible in which to hold this conversation? And if so, what might that look like? Could it be 3 or 4 friends around your coffee table in your lounge with some beautiful candles? Could it be finding and stepping into an established group? Or perhaps for you, an online program? And I invite you to make a gentle promise to yourself to investigate this when the time is right for you. Women's circles are ancient. For thousands of years, we have gathered around fires under full moons in sacred spaces to talk, to listen, to share stories, healing, and wisdom. We can take just a little of the sacred traditions, the conversations, the ways of being in this space, and make a creative deliciousness for every meaningful conversation. To ensure that we all have spaces of becoming and unbecoming, where we can be received and held and loved in all of our messiness and midwived into that beautiful shining light. Because that light, that's going to change the world. That light is going to set the world on fire and gently but surely burn away everything which no longer serves us. And at the same time, illuminate our collective pathway forward. Thank you.